Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Rhonda Magee, and I apologize. I have a little bit of a allergy reaction this morning, but just wanting to say good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening. I know this is a global community and people may be looking at this video as a recording later. So just welcome whatever time of day or evening or night it is for you. I'd like to thank the HealthFlix Global Wellness community for inviting me to be a part of this opportunity to provide resources for you as part of what I consider our global family, our global family during this this time of such great suffering, disruption, such chaos and volatility and sorrow for so many people. And for many of us who are not directly on the front lines and are not feeling it in those kinds of more pitched ways right now, we're nevertheless feeling the reverberations of so much anxiety as the world grapples for the first time in my own life experience, and maybe that's true for many of you as well, with anything like this kind of global moment, if you will, wherein we're all sort of suffering the same kind of threat to our physical vulnerability at the same time. And again, this is not to say that people aren't differently more vulnerable than others, but at a certain level, the pandemic knows no race, background, zip code, or geographic location. It is finding its way into various communities at different times and at different degrees. So we are here to provide support for you as you move through this experience yourself. And in particular, my presentation today is an opportunity for you to reflect on mindfulness as a support and indeed to look at the foundations of mindfulness, right? So many of you are probably quite familiar with mindfulness, or there may be some of you for whom this is your very first time thinking about this topic or exploring that practice. And whatever your degree of familiarity or comfort so far with mindfulness, I just want to say welcome. This session is for you. Whether you've been sitting for decades or you're just starting the journey, you happen to find yourself here today, welcome. We're all, again, here as a global community of practice and learning. And the intention for me today is to support you in exploring some of the ways that mindfulness indeed really can provide just a foundation. And so to begin, this idea of the 4 foundations of mindfulness is a translation, a reflection on some core teachings of the teacher most often associated with the teachings of mindfulness, and that is the Buddha. Now, the ways that I'm going to be describing these reflections and the practices that I will offer are in some sense grounded in the teachings of the Buddha, but they are and have been sort of recognized as foundational, fundamental human capacities. And in that sense, they're available and have been in a beautiful and generous way offered to the global community as support for these times. So I just want to honor that we wouldn't be able to offer these practices and discuss them in these ways were it not for particular, often Asian heritage communities that have lovingly held and sort of taught and maintained and continue sharing these practices. And so the world owes a great debt of gratitude to the original progenitors of the practices we are now able to experience in a global way, a humanist way, through what we call mindfulness. So to move this forward, I want to just invite a look at these foundations. But first, as a preliminary, I want to just remind you the session that we're on is being live streamed to YouTube right now. It's being recorded, and so you'll be able to look at it and share it with others afterwards. It's a free offering in support of these times in collaboration with HealthFlix and a group of other international teachers of mindfulness and wellness practices. So to begin, I invite you to settle into a comfortable place, as quiet a place as you can obtain right now. And if you're not able to get yourself in a perfectly quiet place, you're in the midst of life with family and the sounds of life around you, that will be okay too. These practices are perfectly portable and available to you right here, right now, whatever your circumstances. We'll find as we go and as we continue to explore mindfulness, it doesn't require you to be in any particular kind of way or any particular place or have any kind of tools at all other than the intentionality and the willing heart to explore what it's like to be present in these times, in the particular bodies that we inhabit, in the places where we live right now. So wherever you are, it's perfectly fine. And you are perfectly able to experience these practices, no matter your physical condition at this moment, although you might want to alter some of what is offered here to accommodate whether you're lying down, whether you're using a wheelchair or otherwise. However your body is able to kind of support you in this moment, we can experience together and explore and experiment with ways that mindfulness can be a support for you. So I believe everyone is going to be muted here throughout the presentation period, but the chat line will be open and available. And later I'll open the lines to allow some Q&A so that I can hear from you. And I'd love it if you're willing at that point to allow your videos to be shared so we can see the kind of global community of practice that has gathered around this sort of, I think of it as like almost like a campfire when we come together like this, a virtual campfire. So we can chat together as I go. Please, feel free to utilize the chat box, and I'll be able to answer some questions there. There's also a Q&A box for you to place questions. And I'll have the support of one of the HealthFlix staff members, Michelle, who might at some point also be present here and assist me in the flow of this webinar. So to begin then, let me just open up this slide, which just discusses how it is that with these practices of mindfulness, the goal is that we will assist ourselves and support ourselves in cultivating a kind of ability to just be with what is. Now, I wanted to say we use these words presence and well-being, and in a certain sense, they can sometimes set us up for feeling like there's a kind of idealized state that we have to kind of hold ourselves in a certain way. But actually, for those of you who've been practicing, you already know this. And for anybody who's new to the practice, it's something to check out for yourself. Mindfulness is not about having to be a certain kind of way. It's fully about just being here now with whatever is arising. I have this photo here indicating, again, a certain way in which we sometimes think of ourselves as sort of sitting in this perfect, easeful way, gleaming white while whatever it is just coming, and we're just sort of, impervious to it. I almost put this up. I almost didn't put this photo up here because I think it can send us in the wrong direction in the sense of like always looking for kind of an idealized, perfect experience of mindfulness. And then we get frustrated when, as happens for all of us, we sit and we struggle. And we have to cultivate the muscle of practicing mindfulness. And we find that it's not necessarily easy. It's a simple practice. It's not easy for most of us to do because it's so different from the way we are typically going about the world with the default network of mind wandering and, in a certain sense, let's say, if not mindlessness, quite easily distracted by whatever is most prominently presented to us as stimuli in our environment. And so mindfulness is about being able to notice the stimuli, be present to what is here, but understand that between stimulus and reaction, or stimulus and response, as was so beautifully noted by Viktor Frankl in a famous statement that many teachers find very resonant for conveying what mindfulness can do. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And within that space, Frankl helped us see, is this opportunity, this power to choose how, rather than to just react automatically, we might instead pause, see the options available to us in terms of a response, and to act in a way then that might align us better with our highest and best, whatever that looks like at the moment. And then ideally, because we're moving through the world with this this practice, this capacity, this intentionality as a support, then we're able to see the consequences of our actions in the world more rightly, and perceive when we need to make subtle to not so subtle corrections, change what we're doing to better meet the moment, whether that be to better prepare ourselves for the work of supporting someone else who's ill, and while we're feeling vulnerable ourselves, knowing we have to be there for others, or whether it be better communicating with someone in the family, in the household, who's going through something difficult, as we all are during this time. There are myriad applications for what it is that we're talking about. And so as we think about and explore mindfulness here today, I really want to just sort of kind of note that however it is that you arrive at this moment of inquiry around mindfulness, it's an opportunity. It's a profound opportunity to just explore what it's like for you to take time to deepen an intention for being with your experiences in this kind of gentler, more compassionate, just sort of way of relating to what is that we call mindfulness. And so, again, I've already alluded to a way of defining mindfulness for anybody for whom this is new. Pardon, please, those who are experts at it, who are on this call, or those who have been pondering and teaching these practices for years. We all may have a slightly different way of defining mindfulness. For me, when I use the term, I'm thinking about the practices that support me in being present in a particular way. And I borrow this way of thinking about mindfulness, of course, from my own teachers. I will consider myself a lifelong student, no matter how many opportunities I'm fortunate to have to offer and share with others like this, and in my role, in the various roles that I play in the world. I consider myself a lifelong learner too. So I should say, my main normal role is a law professor at the University of San Francisco, actually. But I also have studied and trained in the teaching of mindfulness, and have had a regular, fairly daily, almost always daily, practice of mindfulness as a support for me for more than 25 years. So when I describe it, then I'm drawing on my own experience. I'm drawing on the teachings of the range of beautiful teachers that I've been fortunate to study with, including Norman Fisher, a former abbot of the San Francisco Zen Center on the one hand, but also Jon Kabat-Zinn, whose name will be familiar to many of you as the originator of the mindfulness-based stress reduction program at the University of Massachusetts. Jon often uses this language to describe mindfulness. It's paying attention in a particular way. So paying attention on purpose in a particular way. And that particular way is about kindness. It's about lovingly being open to whatever is arising for now. And so I have to say that because it's not about pacifying ourselves and just accepting whatever is forever. Instead, it is about being willing to pause long enough and to use a phrase that's not uncommon in mindfulness teaching, to not be at war with reality. right? Such that, something is coming up and we don't want to see it. We don't want to, we push it away. We react to it. We judge it really quickly. Or we cling to it and it's trying to move on, or it's impermanent as all things seems are. Check it out for ourselves. Anything that we sort of hold on to, that insofar as by its very nature, it's impermanent, the holding and the grasping might itself be a source of great suffering, as might be just not knowing, just sort of being in a fog of confusion when information is right there to be known, appreciated, seen, integrated, and acted upon with some wisdom. So with mindfulness, then we're cultivating capacity to be with what is, to relate more fruitfully or effectively with whatever is arising. And that might be a range of different stimuli. And so we're cultivating the capacity to be present with whatever is with a certain kind of kindness. And you can readily imagine then, this presents an opportunity for us to explore who we are, for you to explore who you really are in the precious moments that we have on this beautiful planet together, right here, right now, and for however long we happen to be alive. Isn't it a beautiful opportunity then to really explore how we can be more fully here and not miss whatever opportunity, whatever beauty, whatever the gifts of the present moment might be, that we not miss them, is an important implication or offering, if you will, from the practices of mindfulness. So it's practicing in a certain way, and then the way of being present to reality that might evolve from these practices. So the key takeaways that I want to center the balance of the talk on are these foundations of mindfulness. And there are 4 traditional foundations of mindfulness, and they are mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of sort of feelings, or the kind of feeling tone, if you will, of experience, mindfulness of thoughts and cognition and all the different things that our brains can do so beautifully to help us move through the world, but also we'll explore how it is that the thoughts, the cognizing, just learn this word, solutioning, that people try to do, all of these different things that we all try to do as we try to navigate a world. These are our beautiful capacities, but they can also be objects of our awareness, so that we can begin to see how thoughts themselves can become reified, can become the kinds that we can find ourselves attached to thinking that is unskillful. And we can find ourselves in other ways, creating narratives and stories that create a gap between the actual experience of what is real and true. And so mindfulness of all the different ways that we engage in the thinking mind and the cognizing processes, just bringing awareness to the nature of our minds and the activity of the mind, is really a profound aspect of these practices as well. And because of the potential for well-being that can be supported by just mindfulness of thoughts, frankly, I think that's one of the reasons why mindfulness has been taken up by so many in the profession of psychology, cognitive psychology, those whose professions and commitments are about helping us develop the kind of psychological flexibility that can help us, not ruminate, not catastrophize, not, make a circumstance that we find ourselves in even worse by the nature of the particular thoughts that might seize us about. And so finally, then mindfulness of, I'm just using the placeholder, experiences in the world. The traditional teachings refer to this as like phenomena in the world, or the true teachings of the world. And really, that's kind of a placeholder for how it is that beyond mindfulness of the body, of feelings, of thoughts, we're bringing mindfulness to all aspects of our experience and really being present to the opportunity to investigate the personal, interpersonal, and collective systemic aspects of how it is that we are being, constantly confronted with constructions and ways of being, ways of holding ourselves that sometimes can get in the way of more authentic engagement with what is. And so a way of summarizing one of how to think about what mindfulness of the body, let's say, as the first foundation might offer for us. It offers, and again, this is a summary that was presented first by Michelle McDonald, who is a mindfulness teacher based, she has been based in Hawaii and in other places. But this practice has been popularized and elaborated on by teachers like Tara Brach and Diana Winston and very many other people in the Western mindfulness tradition. And so I offer my own kind of spin on this tradition with appreciation to Michelle McDonald for first offering this to the world. This summary of kind of, trying to approximate in this acronym what mindfulness of the body, of feelings, of thoughts, of phenomena in the world makes available to us. So we practice in ways that allow us to recognize what's arising. So if we take a moment right now, we notice our bodies in this moment. We pause, and you might allow yourself to really drop in for a moment of practicing mindfulness of the body by adjusting yourself in your seat so that if necessary, you can place your feet flat on the floor as one way to sort of sit. If you're seated in a chair, you want to maximize as best as possible a sensory connection with the ground beneath you. And so as you're sitting in that position or in any other, however you're sitting, if you're lying down or even standing, the invitation is to take a moment, feel the connections between the body and the floor, recognizing them, accepting the support that is existing here in this moment for you as you breathe in and out. And however easily, or if you are in any way finding any challenges with breathing, as so many actually are in this moment, the invitation is to recognize that to whatever degree you are breathing, you're here, you're alive. And as John Kabat-Zinn often says, for breathing, there's more right with us than wrong with us. So breathing in and breathing out, noticing the quality of the experience of the body right here, right now. And allowing perhaps focusing on the breath in this moment to be a support for anchoring in the experience of this body in this moment, this breathing body, this soft-bellied, carbon-based, creaturely body, just sitting here, bearing up as best we can with, again, whatever challenges we might be facing, bringing kindness to the sensations of breathing and sitting and just being with what's arising here now. So whether you have your eyes opened or closed, the invitation is to just drop in right here, right now, and check in, bringing mindfulness to your body in this moment. What's it like? See if you notice the quality of the breath as you pick up on the in-breath, the out-breath. Wherever you happen to find yourself. See if you notice whether you're breathing really deeply all the way down, maybe placing one hand just beneath the belly button or both. See if you can notice it, the belly button and the belly area rising and falling. And if so, that's an indication that you're breathing deeply enough to allow the natural relaxation function of breathing deeply in and out to be a support for you in this moment. And if you notice that you're breathing high in the chest and not so deeply, you might invite just a few conscious deep breaths. And then the invitation is just to rest in the sensations of breathing right where you are, right here, right now. Now, this is bringing mindfulness to the experience of being in the body right now. Gently holding whatever is arising, whether sounds of being in the space that you're in, the sounds of your body in this moment, whether gently noticing the sound of the breath flowing in and out. And as and when you're ready, the invitation is just to maybe open the eyes and just bring yourself back into this moment of reflective engagement with listening to the remainder of the presentation. So if you've been able to practice that mindfulness moment, you were able to sort of explore how it is that with mindfulness, perhaps you can recognize just what's alive and present in the body. So what is the quality of the breath in a given moment? And again, we're accepting how we are right here, right now, without resisting, without being, necessarily trying to change it even. Just like right here, right now, oh, I'm noticing breathing in this way. And if we decide we want to support ourselves more with maybe a fuller, deeper breath, we're consciously inviting, just accepting the quality of that experience as much as we are able to in that moment. As much as possible, then we are just being with what is. Yes, if we choose to make an alteration, to choose our position, to choose to breathe a little bit more deeply, we're doing that with a consciousness that we're choosing. We're noticing the capacity to choose how we might be with this moment. And so the recognition, the acceptance is an opportunity to investigate. Okay, what is the quality of this breath? And then from that investigation to choose with a nurturing kind of non-attached way, I might want to adjust this a little bit. So as we practice recognizing, accepting, investigating, here's what I'm seeing. I'm noticing as I breathe in and out, perhaps a little bit of tension in my shoulders. Perhaps on the next out breath, I might breathe in such a way as to support relaxing and releasing, allowing myself to feel a little bit more at ease, resting in the chair, right? So to recognize and accept where we are in this moment is an opportunity then to investigate how we are holding the moment. Are we holding the body with any more tension than we need to? And if so, might we respond by releasing and relaxing a little bit more? So everything we do then with mindfulness is ideally in the spirit of this kind of nurturing, non-attachment to a story of how we are that suggests that this is the way it is forever. We're just willing to be in flow with our lives. And so as we engage in mindfulness in this way, having, as we have just done, practiced a moment of experimentation with this together, we're able to see how mindfulness can support us in recognizing not just the experience of the body, but also feelings as they come and go. The sensations that tell us that we kind of like what's going on, what's happening right now. We sort of don't. We have all kinds of names and terms that we can apply to our emotions. But mindfulness as a first approximation, when we're talking about mindfulness of feelings, just trying to notice pleasant versus unpleasant sensations. So the pleasantness perhaps of the sunlight in our space or the setting sun that we might notice if we're aware of it in a given place. The pleasantness of the temperature that we're feeling, or the unpleasantness when we feel like it's a little too warm or too cold for our taste at the moment. And beyond that, right, bringing more awareness to the way in which the body responds to, with the reactivity to what we like and what we don't. And mindfulness of these emotion states or feeling states can support us then in becoming aware of the thoughts that are often associated with what we're feeling, what's going on in the body, the feeling tone of a moment. So the story that we might associate with why we like a particular person, practice, experience, moment. So mindfulness of thinking, the thinking mind, the narrating mind. And then mindfulness of the phenomena, right? Where we are in a particular place and time, for example, that might support us. And noticing the impermanence or the changing nature of thoughts, sensations, the feelings in our body, the pleasant, unpleasant reactivity to what's going on. And so mindfulness of the phenomena can open us up to being present to that flow of experience that characterizes our lives, kind of the river of life. And through these practices, then we can over time develop more of a home, a refuge in mindfulness, such that we are able to feel our way into, well, sympathetic joy for just being alive, right? A joy in our own being for being alive to the degree that we're here right now and can make the most of this opportunity together. So appreciating what is well within us and also appreciating what's well within each other and in this life that we share together. We call that sometimes sympathetic joy, recognizing and being happy that we exist together and being joyful for this life that we share. We can rest in the sensations that give rise to a sense of appreciation for life. We can rest in compassion for each other, in what's called loving kindness, the will to cultivate broader and broader circles of concern that include all of us and the more than human, the non-human world, the planet itself, as so beautifully represented by the picture on my screen right now. And through all of this, equanimity is a term that is often associated with what can arise through regular engagement with the foundations of mindfulness, the practices of mindfulness as I've described here, and as we've experimented with just a bit together. So I really want to just now invite us to shift out of this didactic portion, just to name that additional daily support is going to continue to be available for you through this HealthFlix program and through many other resources that might be available. I'm putting here my contact information and inviting you to stay in touch with me. There are all kinds of free resources available, again, through this platform and others. And so we invite you to really look for and find the kinds of resources that can be the best support for you. And so let me see if I can stop the screen share. I believe I may have. And I want to now invite any questions that have arisen. See if there are any questions. There are no questions right here, right now. This is a perfect opportunity if any questions are arising. I see there might be one in the box here. Let's see. Oh, this is perfect. I've been trying, but my mind is way too busy. I noticed that come back, but before I know it, I've drifted again. Can you give me tips that will help me quiet my mind? Yes. Whew. I really appreciate, this question, which is so, such a human one. It gives us such a sense of how it is that any one of us might be in this moment. It's not easy to keep our mind on this chosen point of focus, whether it be the sensations of breathing, as I was supporting us in practicing today, bringing awareness to the in-breath and the out-breath, feeling the support of the ground beneath us, and resting in that as best we might. As we try and practice mindfulness, it is not uncommon, as the questioner suggested, for our mind to go off. I want to just say that if that happens to you, see that if you can as a beautiful moment of awareness. The fact that you notice that your mind has drifted off is itself the gift of mindfulness. So I want to, as much as possible, just name the fact that the wandering, drifting mind is the norm of human existence. You know, researchers in neuroscience and otherwise really have made it clear. 50% at least of our daily experience is of a mind that's wandering and moving back and forth. So there should be absolutely no shame, blame, or concern about the fact that when you sit, your mind wanders. And so the invitation is, with very gentle, loving kindness, just bring it right back. And as you do that again and again, what you're doing is kind of developing the muscle of mindfulness. My friend and teacher, Amisi Jha, talks about that as like developing kind of like a little push-up for your mindfulness reflexes. Every time, it's like the exercising of mindfulness. Each time you notice the mind is wandered and you bring it back. So see those mind wanderings from this point forward as best you can as gifts of the practice, rather than something to be frustrated by. And just with kindness, cultivate that willingness and kindness to gently bring yourself back. Let's see if there's another question. How do we accept what is, and yet investigating to breathe deeply or alleviate the tension seems to be the opposite of acceptance? How do we balance it? Yeah, I completely get it. So again, acceptance in this way of thinking about it, it isn't about accepting what is forever and for all time. It is about creating pauses with intention in the processing and flow of our lives, and, you know, the doing and the being, right? The being active, that is so much a part of what it means to be alive and human. It's creating moments where we pause, moments, maybe extended moments when we're formally practicing, as we just did here, where we are willing to just sort of be with what is. And when we pause, we are not pausing forever, right? Because we're not saying we're going to become statues and henceforth we're just sitting. So what we're doing is cultivating the capacity to kind of receive information and stimuli, be present, really deepen our capacity. This is a kind of an inquiry that starts to evolve as part of the practice. So we're not just calming and stabilizing, we're also inquiring more deeply into the nature of experience, actually. So this is the gift of teachers in the insight tradition of meditation, because what we're talking about here is that the moments that we pause can be moments in which we not only calm and rest and sort of develop a sense of like restoration by the peacefulness of the pause, but we're also maybe developing more deeper insight and wisdom that we can then carry into the actions that we take from here on. So we may not be ready for the investigation, the deep investigation right here, right now. It might just be a gentle investigation where we might just pause, accept that we're rushing, or we're feeling fear, and we might investigate what are some of the thoughts associated with this fear, this feeling, or where is it in the body right now? And through that investigation, we might notice, oh yeah, I was thinking this thought that may or may not be true. What if this thought isn't true? And by the way, what else is here as I investigate this feeling in my body? Am I also able to feel some calm, some peace, some sense that whatever the fearful thought is sort of floating away, and I can actually feel myself right here, right now, thinking, feeling the sensations of being at peace. So investigation then can be just that shift, right? That invitation to kind of engage with how we relate with reality. And so I thank you for that question, because I think it helps us to understand or to see investigation as a gift of practice, as a way of supplementing, moving from just stabilizing and calming the mind as a part of practice, but really deepening our capacity for not just calm, stability, and that kind of stamina building or resilience, but really becoming more insightful as we go, right? So we might notice, oh yes, when I have that train of thought, it sends me off into this spin of anxiety. What if I notice the thoughts a little bit quicker and pause and let those thoughts go and invite just resting? So that's what I mean by investigating, just to that extent, so that we're flowing between recognizing, accepting, maybe investigating with non-attachment to what is, being present again for the next moment, breathing in and out, accepting what is there, maybe resting, right? And on and on. So we just touched into just one kind of way of practicing mindfulness. And there are many, many ways, many, many different types of practices. But this session has just been aimed at introducing a basic practice of mindfulness of the body with awareness of breathing as a support. And then through that, exploring a little bit about the deeper foundations of mindfulness. So I hope that answer has been helpful. I have a question. Could you explain the difference between meditation and mindfulness? That's a beautiful question. In the way that I'm using it, meditation may be a form of mindfulness meditation, right? Is a form of meditation, not the only form of meditation. Meditation is a word, a larger word, you might say, a word for describing a category of different ways we might contemplate reality, pause, engage in building awareness. Mindfulness then may be seen as a kind of meditation in the way that we just did a awareness of breath meditation. That's a mindfulness-based kind of meditation. But mindfulness is also a kind, it's a word that describes a category of thought, practice, maybe ethical commitments for many of us, myself for sure, a philosophy, an approach, a way of being that, for me at least, is supported by the mindfulness meditation practices. So it's a complex word, you might say, complicated. It's comprised of many different things. And so the invitation is to allow ourselves first to maybe feel our way into what mindfulness is by being willing to explore the practices and seeing what arises as a result. And you're on a journey to the degree you decide to explore mindfulness in this way. And for me, it's a lifelong journey. So this question of what is mindfulness is one that I come back to again and again, like all big, beautiful, good questions that animate life. Ideally, we stay with them and learn more as we grow and practice and open to being changed by experience throughout the course of our experiences with this thing called mindfulness. I hope that's helpful. Yes. Let's just keep trying. I love this. Thanks for your response. We'll keep trying. And trying from this place of knowing that you're already okay. Whatever you are and however you are in this moment is kind of okay. So if we can bring this envelope of accepting ourselves, again, this is not to say that we're not going to, try to be better. This is part of being human, I think. We wouldn't be on a wellness call if we weren't like, I want to be well. So we often, right, realistically speaking, bring some kind of, that spirit of the wanting into it. But the invitation here is certainly to cultivate as best we can the sense that, we're perfect in our imperfections. However we are right here, right now, the genius of our body is trying to tell us something that we might learn from. So if the mind is wandering, this is the genius of the body trying to tell you that. If we're falling asleep while we meditate, trying to tell us that we're a little bit sleepy. Give ourselves a little bit more sleep. If we're sad when we sit, if we cry, when you hear my voice, someone recently sent me a message. I hear your voice and I just cry. Let yourself cry. The body needs to cry. So whatever is arising, if we can just be with it with kindness, that's mindfulness. Mindfulness and ethical commitments, yes. We're about running out of time here, but let me just say this much about that. For me, everything arises out of the awareness of interconnectedness that mindfulness gives for me. And so as I realized through the breath, right, that I didn't create, but that is here, right now, that we're all sharing, the ground beneath us that we're all sharing, this earth, wherever we are on the planet, to me, the ethics of connection mean I want to do no harm as best I can. I may do harm, I will. I'm a human being, I'm not perfect. But mindfulness for me is about engaging in the practices that support us in doing as little harm as we can as we go. My time has run out, but I'm here, Rhonda Magee, as a support for you, as a colleague, a co-journeyer. We're in it together, my friends. May you be well. May you be safe. May the questions that you have continue to find their own answers in your own heart, because they're right there, right here. They're here for you, as we all are. Thank you. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be at ease.